Hey everybody, Barry here with the LawFull channel. How's everybody doing today? As you know, I go live every Friday with my top 5 legal questions of the week or legal comments of the week, things that I want to address. If you're first time visiting our channel, would you please subscribe? And if you have any questions or comments about legal topics, please feel free to reach out to me. If I can't help you, I'll try and find someone who can. So let's dive into the top 5 legal questions or comments of the week. The first one comes from Christopher, and he watched my video on how much is a rear end accident worth. I put a link to that video and all the videos I'm going to talk about in this live presentation in the description below. So if you want to go check out those videos after I'm done with this, please feel free to do so. But Christopher wrote, I got rear-ended last Friday. The pickup truck that was behind me was most likely distracted and crashed into me. Let me know, what do you think? Do I have a good case? Should I proceed with it? All right, this is the question I get asked over and over and over again by people. Do I have a good case? And also, how much is my case worth? Seems to be the other question that people always want to know the answer to. So do you have a good case? There's 2 points I want to make. The first thing is, in determining whether you have a good case, you have to look at a few different factors. One is liability or responsibility for the accident. In this case, he got rear-ended, so liability isn't going to be much of a question. The second thing is, how severe are your injuries? If you just have a back sprain or strain, then on a sliding scale of injuries, you may be on the left side, whereas on the right side is like wrongful death and dismemberment and herniated discs and traumatic brain injuries. So whether you have a good case or not depends a lot in part on how severe your injuries are. Other things to look at are, how much are your medical bills? How severe was the impact? How permanent are your injuries? Are you going to walk with a limp the rest of your life? Those are some of the things that make up a good case. Now, here's the second point I want to make. You may have a good case, you may just not have any injuries. So you got rear-ended, liability is clear, but if you don't have any damages, any medical injuries, then you have a property damage case. And you may have a good property damage case, but it's not going to be worth anything other than the property damage. So whatever the value is of the vehicle, if it's totaled, or whatever the cost is to repair the car. So that's my short answer on, whether I have a good case or not. I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, please let me know, because I definitely want to make sure that everybody's questions that get asked on this channel get answered. Okay, the second comment of the week comes from the Anti-Hate Bully. I like that name. He watched my video on the top 3 things to know about a dog bite case. And here's the thing, I'm getting comments on dog bites now, and I'm getting calls on dog bites. The weather's getting warmer, people are going for walks, they're walking their dogs, people are riding their bikes, they're on motorcycles, what have you. They're walking around their neighborhoods. Dog bites are starting to increase again. And as a result, I think we're going to see an increase in that throughout the course of the summer. But his comment was, I just got bit on Tuesday walking home on the sidewalk. The dog did not have a leash on and was running around in the front yard. It tore my shirt and it got me in the hand and the side of the hip. All right, so that's kind of a abbreviated version of what he said. But here's what I want to tell you about dog bites, okay? 3 things. One main thing, 3 different possibilities. One is that you live in a strict liability state, which means that if the dog bites, the owner's on the hook. The second type of state you might live in is a 1-bite state, like I think New York, where the dog owner actually has 1 free bite before they're on the hook for any damage that their dog does. But the third type of state that you see a lot of are negligent states, where the owner has to do something wrong. He has to breach his duty of negligence or duty of care rather, and as a result was negligent in supervising or taking care of their dog. Well, in this case, a dog is running around, no leash, in the front yard. So it sounds to me like it's pretty clear that this dog owner was negligent. Now, as long as you didn't do anything to provoke the dog and you were just lawfully walking on the sidewalk and you were acting peacefully, you didn't do anything, again, to provoke the dog, I think that that dog owner is probably going to be on the hook in a negligent state, in a strict liability state. Now, having said all of that, it doesn't mean anything if there's not insurance. So the key thing to a dog bite case is that there's homeowners or renters insurance. I've talked about that so many times. If there's not insurance, you're left filing a lawsuit against the owner of the dog directly, individually, and expecting that owner to pay for your damages. Well, if the owner's not a homeowner, there's a very good chance that they don't have the assets to pay for a large settlement for your pain and suffering, your medical bills, and so forth. So that's what I wanted to share with you on dog bites. I hope I answered your question on that. I think that you may have a good case based on any standard that we talk about. If you want to talk to me further about that, please feel free to reach out to me. Okay, the third comment of the week comes from Giovanni, and he watched my video, Can I Sue an Uninsured Driver? And I put a link to that video down below in the description too. He wrote, so I got a letter in the mail today from my now former lawyer saying that they will no longer continue to represent me to cover my damages on an accident that wasn't my fault because it turned out that the driver of the vehicle was uninsured. First of all, this sucks of that lawyer not to pick up the phone and explain to you what's going on. All right, that's kind of bad behavior that lawyers get a bad rep for. At the very least, that lawyer should have picked up the phone and explained the situation to you. So that is very frustrating to me. However, here's the situation you're in. If the driver of the other vehicle does not have insurance, you have two options. One is you can go after your own auto insurance for uninsured motorist coverage. Now, you may or may not have that. You have to check. I've talked about it so many times on this channel. I'm going to talk about it later in this video about why having UM is so important. But the next thing I want to say is your only other option if you don't have UM coverage is to file a lawsuit against the driver of the vehicle directly. Now, I already said filing a lawsuit against somebody directly doesn't result in large recoveries. But in this case, if you just suffered property damage and it's a few $1,000s, you may be able to file a lawsuit in small claims court. Don't be afraid to file a lawsuit there. That's what small claims court is meant for. So go ahead and file a lawsuit and see if you can recover against this uninsured driver. I hope I answered your question. If you have any questions or comments for me, put them in the chat. Or if you're watching on replay, please feel free to reach out to me, put a comment. I'm definitely going to get back to you. Okay, so the fourth comment of the week. This is my comment of the week, all right? This comes from me. And I believe it's a he, watched my live video last week, and he made a comment that I love. So thank you so much for this comment. He said, "You're absolutely crazy to only have 100,000 underinsured motorist or uninsured motorist. I maxed out at $1 million. Was rear-ended in 2019. The lady only had $100,000 policy limits. Thank God I had UIM coverage. Ended up with $200,000 in past medical bills." Mimi, you are 100% right. Now, I think you were probably referring to a motorcycle accident. Is that right? Tell me about it in the comments section, because I've spoken to so many motorcycle riding groups and hog chapters about the need for a motorcyclist to have as much UM and UIM coverage as they possibly can. But this applies for people who drive cars too. People always tell me, oh, I have full coverage. And then they never do. What they mean is they have the minimum limits required by law. At the very least, you should get at least $100,000 in UM and UIM. And if you can, get more than that. I have $250,000. And if you're riding a motorcycle, get as much as you possibly can. Because if you get involved in an accident with a vehicle, it's you who's going to suffer the damage, not the driver of the car. All right? So Mimi, thank you so much for this comment. You just reiterated a point that I've talked about 100 times on this channel, and that is the need to have the right and adequate levels of uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. All right, the fifth and final comment of the week came from Ray, and he watched my video on what happens if I'm at fault for an accident. And boy, I get a lot of views on this channel, tens of thousands of views on that video. And he said, I was slowing down, and the other guy reversed and didn't see me. No one was injured and I was in shock. It's not my car and I don't want to have to go through insurance. I will gladly just pay the amount because my car didn't receive any damages. Well, I went back and forth with Ray to figure out what was going on, because if the car in front of you reverses and causes a collision with you, that's one of the few rare circumstances, frankly, where a rear end accident, the car in the back would not be at fault for the accident. So if that car reversed into you, Ray should not be at fault. But here's the problem. Ray doesn't have any evidence. He doesn't have any information to prove that the guy in front of him backed into him. And that is so difficult to prove. And it's his word against the other guy's word. That's why having an independent witness verify what's happening in an accident is so important. And I've talked about that on this channel a lot of times. But by the way, one way that you can prevent this from ever happening to you, motorcyclists have been doing this for a long time. But you could invest in a GoPro for a couple $100 or a dash cam. And that way you can record everything that's going on in your vehicle at all times. I have seen so many cases, countless really, where video turned the tide in terms of liability for a case, where the defendant said they were doing something and it turns out we had them on video and they were lying about what happened. It happens all the time. So, if you're interested, consider investing in a GoPro or a dash cam to put on your dashboard, and that way you can protect yourself in the future. All right, those are my top 5 legal questions of the week or legal comments of the week. I post a new video every Tuesday, and every Friday I go live with my top 5 legal comments of the week. If you haven't already, would you subscribe to our channel? And if you have any questions or comments about a legal matter, would you please feel free to reach out to me? If I can't help you, I'll try and find someone who will. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next week.